Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present here and talk a little bit about Qigong. First of all, I'd like to compliment everybody here for still being here.
Yeah.
You know, this has probably been a very long day, so the fact that you're still sitting in these chairs, I'm quite amazed. And you're to be commended. Also, I do work for the VA hospital, and Mr. James Floyd is sitting here, and he's my boss. So I'm asking you to make me feel good today, okay? Pardon?
I said, where's your boss?
He's in a supporting role today, which is, maybe that's what he always is. I'm sort of constrained, I think, to stand here, which is really difficult for me because I really like to move. So I'll do my best, but part of the purpose today is to talk to you about Qigong. And the pronunciation of the word is Qi-Gong. And the Chinese, there's two ways to translate from Chinese into English, at least in the English format. One's called the Wade-Giles format, and the other's called Pinyin. And the Chinese developed the Pinyin system, so when the Chinese write into English, they always use the Pinyin spelling. So the Pinyin spelling for Qigong is Q-I-G-O-N-G. If a Westerner, in terms of us, Holly, does this, then they would spell it C-H-I-G-O-N-G. So you'll see it spelled a lot of different ways, but most of the writings from the Chinese will be Q-I-G-O-N-G. And it's pronounced Qigong. And this is Qigong is what is known as the fourth pillar of traditional Chinese medicine. So you're probably familiar with acupuncture, you're familiar with herbs, but you're probably not familiar with the two other forms of this practice. One of them is massage, and the other form of this happens to be Qigong. And Qigong is the self-help piece of traditional Chinese medicine. And this is, let me say that Qigong has been a well-kept secret in China for many years. And it wasn't until the late 1980s that this practice actually became sort of known in the West. Because the Chinese government, what happened was the Chinese government began to study their own, work groups, communes, those kinds of things, and started finding out that some of these groups seemed to have better health than other groups in the country. And they couldn't figure out why did some do better than others. Well, when they began to study it, they found out that the groups that were practicing Qigong were the healthiest groups in the country. So the Chinese government, not being exactly stupid, said, well, we think this makes sense to lift the ban on this because the Chinese government had banned the practice of this, but people have been practicing it in secret for years. So they said, this doesn't make sense. It's going to save us money. It's going to save the people money, and they'll be more productive, so let's lift the ban on Qigong. So they did. And when they lifted the ban on Qigong, several people in China decided they wanted to make this much more available to the world at large. And one of those people was Dr. Pang Ming, who is the person that I've studied his tradition. And it's a medical Qigong, meaning that it's really designed to focus on health and healing. So let me talk about what I'd like to do today. The first thing that I'd like to do is, this is me. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story and how I got involved with Qigong a little bit later on. But just to let you know that this is a practice that I do every day, and I've done this every day for almost 10 years. And it's really made a huge difference in my life. The purpose of this presentation, though, is to help you understand a little bit of the background of it, but my most important piece of this is to let you experience what Qi really is. The Chinese have talked about Qi for years. They've tried to research what is it. Nobody can tell you what it is. Our Western physicists have probably come closer in the recent years with their description of what we call a zero-point field, where they've been able to measure energy that's not apparent. In fact, there's so much energy there in this subtle energy, it's small amounts, but it's so powerful that Richard Feynman once said that if you could take a cubic square meter of space, empty air, and harness the power that was in that cubic square based on the zero-point energy field, you would be able to boil all the oceans of the world. So this is what the Chinese, they think it's the primordial energy that formed the universe, and that it is present and it's available to us if we learn how to move it and use it in our bodies for healing. Like I say, there's many, many forms. There's thousands of forms of Qigong. There are martial art forms of Qigong, but there are also medical. Qigong really started, Qigong people will tell you, it's the forerunner of all the martial arts and Tai Chi. That it was used anciently. It's about a 5,000-year history for this, at least documented history. There's a 3,000-year written history on it. So it's very old. It's been around a long time, and it's very powerful. In China, they have some healing centers that you go to that are hospitals that you do nothing but Qigong. That's it. You go there, they have maybe traditional Western medicines or traditional Chinese medicine doctors there. But when you go there, your practice is just to do Qigong for healing. And in one of those centers, the Huaza Center in China, which is about 5 hours from Beijing, they did intensive study on this. The Chinese government participated in that. They found out that people went there, they went for 30, 60, or 90 days. They would go in, they would have a medical workup by Western-trained doctors. They had, sonograms, x-rays, laboratories set up there. They did re-diagnose. The people were referred from medical centers. They were re-diagnosed. Their diagnoses were confirmed. And then they would begin their practice, and when they left, the same process would begin again.
It's a tiny bit hard to hear. I'm not quite hearing you well.
You can't hear? Is that better? Okay. So they took these people when they left, when they began, when they left, and measured this. And what they found was that of the people that came, 95% of them had improvements in their condition. 20% of them had a total remission of whatever disease they had when they came. Gone. No symptoms, no signs, no illness any longer in their body. About 25% had significant reduction in the illness itself that they could measure. And another 25% had a reduction in symptoms, although the illness itself was not gone. So the symptoms were better, but they had not achieved a remission of the illness. 5%, there was no difference. That's a pretty high rate of success. I think if we had that success in the Western world, we'd jump up and down. Any new drug that can show even like a 10 or 5% improvement, we put on the market. So that's a pretty significant jump. So here are the 4 pillars of traditional Chinese medicine. I talked about acupuncture, herbs, massage, and Qigong. So things I'll talk about, what is Qigong? Where did it come from? Why did people practice this? What could you expect if you actually practice this? And I'll tell you why I do this practice myself. Okay, Qi itself means vital energy. Qi, the Chinese believe that Qi is the primal energy that formed the universe, and it's present in everything. You were born with a certain amount of Qi in your body, natal Qi. And when that Qi is gone, you're gone. That's what happens. But the Chinese also believe that you can enhance your natal Qi if you were able to practice Qigong. You can actually bring this energy that's available to you in the universe, because it's everywhere. You can bring it into your body and help your body to heal by using that energy. When they measure Qi, basically the measurements they try to use are kind of this electromagnetic, and what they think that is that's kind of shows the evidence of Qi, but it's not Qi. So it's sort of a byproduct of Qi, but it's not the qi itself. There's lots of common terms we use for qi that all traditions have. Qi, prana, spirit, raush. There's lots of names that describe this same thing, and most ancient traditions talk about this. Gong itself, the word gong means just work. So Qigong is working with vital energy. That's its meaning. In essence, Qigong is a moving meditation. So when you practice this, it's not like a martial art, but it is actually practiced to move your brain into either an alpha or a beta state. I'm going to say beta, alpha, theta state. When I first started practicing this, one of the teachers, masters I worked with, a cardiologist came to one of the practice sessions and hooked him up to an EKG and said, I want to see what your brain waves do while you're practicing this. And so in this practice, we began to practice it. And when it was over with, I was standing next to the machine, so I asked the doc, what was the show? And he just turned to me and he said, I've never seen anything like this in my life. He says, I've been managing meditators and a lot of people for many years, but I've never seen anybody with this kind of a brainwave pattern. And what happened was when he started to practice, he went from an a beta state, right through alpha, dropped straight into a deep theta state, and stayed there the whole time he was practicing. It stayed in theta and just spiked up and down like this in theta. And he told me that it was actually the guy who writes the music, Halpern, who's a cardiologist but does music. He actually told me, he said, I've never seen anybody able to maintain a theta state like that. He said, even though I've measured many, many long-time practitioners of meditation who could do this. So it was pretty impressive. The purpose of Qigong is to take this vital energy that I'm talking about. If we're talking about moving the energy from the 0-point field into your body, it means that we're moving this with our mind, with our intent, although we are doing actual movements. The movements are to help the energy to actually move. You know, if I have my finger up here and I move my finger, I have to send energy to the finger to move. So by moving it with intent and a deep concentration as you're doing it, making the practice, you enhance the flow of the energy to wherever you want it to go. So it's using your mind and your intent and doing this in a very relaxed state. Okay. It seems to be a common root with Qigong and with yoga. Nobody knows where, but somewhere there is, if you look at some of the moves and some of the practices, some of the ancient things, they think that some way this practice made its way in one direction or another over the Himalayas, into China and into India. So there's a common root there. And in fact, we know that some of the early Buddhist practitioners who moved into China brought with them a practice that they think was basically the roots of what we know as Qigong today. So it may have been a form of yoga at that point. Because when they came into China, they found that the monks were not living very long. The average length of life was about 35 years. Because these people were sitting in meditation for all this time, and they were neglecting their bodies. And so when some of the Buddhist practitioners from India came in and settled, they basically introduced a form of exercise for the monks, and this is what they believe became Qigong. Okay. So anciently, it was only practiced by a select people who seemed to know the secret. So it was kept within the ranks of the nobility and within the religious traditions, and not shared much outside of that. And through the history of in China, Qigong has sort of been in and out of favor with the ruling bodies politically. And so sometimes it would go underground, and then it would come back out, be in favor, and underground and up and down. So people began to practice this very much in secret and keep their own traditions in certain lineages. And as they did that, that's how the various forms have developed over the years. And I said it resurfaced in the 1980s. And actually before this, in the late 70s, a number of people in China thought this was so important that everybody have that. They began to actually introduce it into the parks in China. Many of these people were arrested and thrown in prison for doing this. Dr. Pang was actually one of those who did this. He thought it was so important for the health of everyone that it shouldn't be kept secret any longer. And he spent several years in prison as a result of his efforts to spread this. Okay, why do people practice? First of all, it is a form of exercise. This is very gentle and it's very easy. I actually teach this with the veterans at the VA hospital. And these are patients who come for these classes. We do these once a week. And I have patients who come in wheelchairs to practice with me. I have patients who come in and just lay on the floor while we're doing this because they don't have much energy to do anything else. And others who are able to stand because most of the practice is done standing. It's interesting, this last Tuesday, kind of rewarding for me anyways, I had one of the veterans who comes to this class regularly. When he first started coming, he was in a wheelchair. And after about 3 months, he actually walked in the door one day and said, "I'm feeling much better." And he says, "I just attribute this to this practice." And so he's been walking in every day since then. When we finished the session on Tuesday, he turned to me and said, "This is the first time in my entire life I've been able to touch my toes." And he was pretty elated. I'm not telling you that he's disease-free because he has good days and bad days, but he's no longer in a wheelchair. In fact, he came out of the wheelchair, was walking with a cane. Now he's given up, doesn't have the cane. He just walks in every time. And I think that's pretty remarkable. And he's not the only one. The other form of this is it's really relaxation. The session before this was doing hypnosis and kind of meditation. Well, this is a moving meditation, and it is very relaxing. But what it does is because you're engaging the whole body in the practice, you're putting your whole body into this relaxed state. It's not just a sitting, passive piece. Your body is active, but as you do this, it shifts your brainwave patterns very quickly and drops them down into a lower state, either into an alpha, and if you practice long enough, you can get into a theta state. Which is very relaxed, but also your muscles are relaxed, your body's relaxed. It's a total workout for your body. And although it's very easy to do, it's interesting that it's very easy when when I do this, when I get through, I'm sweating. I mean, it's not like I've run or done anything. I'm very relaxed, but it's because of the movement of the energy in your body. Your body just heats right up because its energy begins to flow, and you'll warm up. And it's also healing, and there's enough research on this to show that it's very healing. They said, it depends on who you talk to, but the Qigong people will say this is where Tai Chi came from, and all the martial arts. The martial artists will say, no, we were the first, and Qigong came from us. So even in China, it's a big debate. Where did it come from? The fact is it's here, and it has some real benefits. Another reason people practice this is for longevity. There's a saying amongst the Qigong practitioners in China that old age, if you practice regularly, old age begins at 96. I'm shooting for that. And I know that one of the Chinese ladies who comes over, who's a master, and comes over and works with the people that I work with, she's 80 years old, and every day she gets up in the morning and does what we call 200 wall squats. Now, wall squats are an exercise. It's not what you think. You don't put your back to the wall. You actually put your toes against the wall, your forehead against the wall, and you squat to the floor. And you touch your rear end to your ankles and back up again. She does 200 of those every morning. The master that I first learned with teaching this form was 80 years old. And I went to this class, and it was interestingly enough, there was some professors, and the director of the physical education department of BYU had come to this place to kind of debunk some of the alternative medicine things, because this was an alternative medicine conference. And so they were there to experience this stuff and then have something to write about. And they brought with them some of their staff, and there were some really young guys there with very good shape. I was in good shape. I mean, I was at the point when I started this 10 years ago, I was running 40 miles a week and lifting weights about 3 times a week. I thought I was just in great shape. This was going to be a piece of cake. Well, I worked with this guy. He's 80 years old, and he put us all on the floor the first day. I mean, these football players were up there just grabbing their shoulders and moaning and groaning and could hardly move. And I could tell you when I finished the first day, I had to walk a quarter of a mile, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it. And it was just doing these very little simple things. So I can tell you this is really easy to learn. It's not complicated. It's not 148 steps. In fact, the form I practice has 16 steps to it. You learn 16 moves and you know everything there is to know. Doesn't require any kind of a master or guru to do it. It's perfectly safe. You can do this just using a tape in your own front room or outside. It's nice to do it outside. So it's a simple thing. You don't need an instructor. You don't have to go to a studio, and you don't have to buy any special shoes. You know, I'll talk about breathing. Breathing is a part of Qigong. The form I practice, we don't focus on breathing, just because the breath will begin to breathe itself once you learn how to do it. But there are, you know, when I practice it, I do warm-up exercises with breathing, deep breathing. And that gets yourself really going. Okay. What could you expect if you were to practice this? Well, I have to tell you that in the Western world, we think that the way to solve our problems is somebody's going to give us a pill and we're going to feel better. This is not a pill. And I can't guarantee you're going to feel better the first time you do it. This is a practice that takes commitment and stick-to-itiveness to do. Although it's easy, it's not something that you have to continue to do it every day. It's an everyday practice. It becomes a lifestyle. So it's different. And so in the Western world, I think there's some really dedicated people, and I can give you all kinds of testimonials to how the power of this. People cured from cancer, you name it. Total remission in just a matter of months. But it takes a daily practice. My teacher tells me that if you miss one day, you lose 4 days' worth of energy development. So you have to stay with it. So it does take discipline and practice. I'm not telling you it's a quick fix or magic. I just tell you it is very powerful and it's very subtle, because the energy we're working with in Qigong is subtle energy. And it's very interesting to see some of the newest research that's coming, especially out of Europe, where they're working with subtle energies, just low-grade magnetic field energy and some other kinds of energies. How powerful, and the changes that they're seeing in terms of healing with this. Just using light, just very subtle energy. And they're doing some really amazing research that I find fits right in with the whole principles of Qigong. Now, there are some really quick gains. If you practice, you know, for a couple of weeks, you'll begin to feel the energy, and some people report marvelous things happening in a very short time. At the Healing Center, this one gentleman talks about going there, practicing for a couple of weeks, and then Dr. Pang walked up to him one day and just shook his hand and sent him some energy. And he tells about losing 20 pounds in that instant and his pants falling off.
Really?
So there are some quick gains.
Or losses.
The other thing about Qigong is this is a system of healing. This is not, you know, just an isolated thing that you practice. It's a whole attitude of living your life in a holistic way. So it's not just the practice itself. It's changing your attitudes towards things. And quite honestly, I mean, Qigong is practiced in this thing of compassion, along with, if you want to say, the Eastern philosophy of compassion and love for yourself and for the people around you and for the world around you. And that's what you're trying to bring into your body, this compassionate attitude, and it's a whole system, not just one thing. So I'll tell you my story. And my story was that I met in about '93, I was at a conference, Noetic Sciences. Is anybody familiar with Noetic Sciences? A couple of you. Yeah, Noetic Sciences was developed by Edgar Mitchell, and it's called The New Science, because when he was coming back from space on his trip, he saw the Earth and had this really deep, moving spiritual experience where he felt like everything is connected. And it was so profound for him that when he got back, he felt like he had to make a difference in the world, and that there was a new way of doing things and approaching things. So he formed the Noetic Sciences to study consciousness. And so I was at this conference, and the conference was focused on healing, the theme of the conference. And it was a wonderful conference, actually, tremendous. In fact, that's where I met Patch Adams there, and he and I had breakfast together. And I was sitting there at a table by myself, and this guy comes up and says, "Can I join you?" And I said, "Sure." And he sits down, and I thought, I wonder what clown this guy is. Because he had these balloon sleeve shirts on, he's got a mustache out to here and long hair, but he was just very colorful. And so we talked and ended up spending about 2.5 hours together discussing the principles of healing. But anyway, while I was there, I also met some other people who are into studying Qigong, and they were telling me what a wonderful experience this is. And a couple of years later, I had the chance to meet a Qi master from the East Coast and begin to study with him. And so I'm telling you my first experience, and that was going there and working out. We actually practiced this Qigong for 10 hours the first day. And so that's why I was a little bit tired. And everybody was, especially the women there, were saying, "This is so wonderful. It just feels so good." And I was thinking, this doesn't feel good. I hurt in every joint in my body. I can hardly raise my arms, from the sides of my body, and they were just dancing. And I thought, this is really weird. So I went up to the master and I said, everybody's telling me how energized they are from this, but I'm not feeling energized. He says, "Well, that's because you have lots of blocks in your body." And he said, "You have to work through a lot of stuff." He says, "By the end of this week, come back and tell me how you feel." So, okay. So I went home, dragged my body home, fell on the beds with my clothes on, and slept for 12 hours and didn't move. Got up the next morning, went back, and went through it again. And by the third day, I can tell you, I felt like somebody had given me caffeine IVs. I had this energy running into me. I had sensations in my body I'd never felt in my life. And all of a sudden I decided, this is for me. This is just such a powerful experience that I can't deny that there's an energy that runs through the body. I mean, I was having popping noises in my body, things opening up. That it was very amazing. I thought, maybe I'm going nuts. But actually it was very healing, because I had just been through an illness that I was really having a hard time recovering from. And within a matter of months, I was just back on the top of the world and feeling great. So I was dedicated to this and have begun practicing ever since, because it was so reinforcing to me physically what it did for me. Okay. Qigong is a healing practice. It really works with this energetic field that I'm talking about. But it's both an internal, like I say, it's an internal process and it's an external process. Because you have to get your mind wrapped around this in a positive way. And as you do that, you'll begin to feel the energy. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to get some time through here, rushing through this, so that we can actually do some of this. Because I want, some of you will actually feel the energy. Okay? We know from research that it will change your brainwave patterns. It will sync the hemispheres of your brain. One of the things we know about some of the illnesses, especially like addictions, that when you look at the brain patterning of people who have addictions, is that the right and left hemispheres of the brain don't sync. They don't have the same brainwave patterns. They're working off different things. So, and with people with attention deficit disorder as well. So what Qigong does is it balances the hemispheres of the brain. And in China, this is what is used actually to treat addiction. I can tell you the studies that have been done on when you actually work with the brain and sync the hemispheres so that the brain waves in the right and left hemisphere are the same, what happens to addiction? It goes away. It goes away within 30 days, and some of the studies have showed people who have had 17, 25 years of addiction never touch anything after that. It works for everything. Say again?
Yeah, she said ADA.
Yes. Yes, it does. Very much so. This will improve your flexibility. It will build your physical strength. It's interesting that this 80-year-old guy who, I told you, would take a football player and put him on the ground very easily, he looked like he was about 45. Anyway, he had told me that he took up Qigong when he was 53 years old because he had a massive heart attack. He was retired from his position. He was actually a movie producer in China, retired, sent home to die. He said, there's nothing we can do for you. We can't touch your heart. There's nothing left for you. So just go home. You're retired. That's it. And while he was in the hospital, somebody told him about Qigong. So he said, well, I have nothing else left to do, so I'm going to do this. And he began practicing Qigong. Within 2 years, he had no heart disease, no detectable anything, no arrhythmias, nothing. And he made that his life practice and began to study it and do research and became a big proponent. And he's one that brought this practice to the United States. It's also because this is a meditative thing, meditative experience, it also helps this connection, if you will, with, I'll say all it is. It's a spiritual practice. It's not a religion. It's not a dogma. There's no dogma to this, but it will certainly help people feel this connection and this deepening spirituality in their lives. Okay, those of you who know a little bit about Chinese medicine know that there's a meridian system in the body. That we have 6 meridians that run up the hands, up and through the shoulders and into the internal organs. You have 6 meridians that come up your legs, up your body into the internal organs and brain. And there are 8 internal channels, and there's what we call the governing and conception vessel, which flows around your body, basically up your spine, around the top of your head, and down these points. And this is where qi flows. And when there's blockages, the Chinese believes that when you have blockages in your body, this is what causes illness. Or if you have too much energy, causes illness. One of those things, too much energy into a certain meridian can cause things like cancer. So it's important to balance the energy within your body, and that's what Qigong does. We have also an external energy system. There's an energy body around our body, energy that flows around us. Those of you who have seen aura pictures know that there's something out there. Science can tell you that there's something out there now. They've been able to measure this energy field around the body. If you're familiar with the HeartMath Institute, anybody know anything about that? The HeartMath Institute was studying the heart, and they began to measure the energy around the heart. And what they found is that the heart produces, when you're in an attitude, if you will, and compassion of love, they can measure an energy field around the heart that extends out 8 feet. It's like, you've all had the experience of walking into a room and said you could cut the tension with a knife. Yeah, everybody knows that. Everybody's experienced that. That's because of the energy that's in the room that people are emitting off their bodies. You can sense it, you feel it, you know it's there. And so this is what we're talking about. I mean, this is what qi is. This is the energy that you want to use and harness in a positive way for your own healing. Okay. So the next steps here, we've got a few minutes. And so what I'd like to do is do a couple of really simple things. Well, I can tell you that my teacher, my master, is the highest level of Tai Chi you can get. He's instructed for 27 years. And he told me that when he began practicing Qigong, he developed energetically more in 6 months than he did in 27 years practicing Tai Chi. And I'm not saying that Tai Chi is not a good thing. I'm just saying that was his experience. What I'd like you to do is to just
Press again, it says.
put your feet close together for a sec. Okay, relax your body. And the beginning stance for Qigong is just to kind of roll your shoulders forward a little bit. This is not a military stance. It's a very relaxed stance. Relax your knees, so you bend your knees slightly, and then you take and tuck your tailbone underneath. Okay? Heads up, pull your chin back, and just relax. Relax your body, relax your breath, relax your mind. Stand nice and relaxed. What I'm going to have you do now is we're going to do a little exercise called the washing machine. And you're having a hard time seeing me. Yeah, we're going to do the washing machine. And the washing machine is, I almost have to stand in front of you. That's why this is really awkward. No, let's try this. So what you're going to do is I want you to just take, and you're going to move your hips, leave your shoulders square, and just move your hips one way and then the other way. So you're like pivoting around the center of your body. So just move back and forth, just your hips. Not your shoulders. Your shoulders, you're trying to keep your shoulders, but you're going to twist, so you might have a little movement. It's just back and forth.
Do you stop when you come front, or is it one continuous?
Just side and then stop, go the other way. It's just keep moving, one way then the next. Just like an agitator on a washing machine. Bop, bop, bop.
Rotational or back and forth?
Back and forth. Not to the front. You're going just really gentle. We're on gentle cycle.
Are you bending your knees?
Just slightly bent knees. And then pick it up. Permanent press. Now put it up to heavy load. Let's get going. Your hands are going to move. Just keep your hands really relaxed so they're just going to kind of flip. Okay, that's good. All right? So we're about out of time here. So I want you to sit down now, and I'm going to play a brief tape. And here's what I want you to do on this tape. We're going to do this for about 5 minutes. This is very simple. You're going to take your hands, put your hands in front of your navel. The navel is the natal center, energy center of your body. Those of you who know Eastern medicine, this is Chinese call this the lower dantian. It's like the second chakra. Okay? Put it in front of the navel. And during the thing, on the tape, you're going to, Master Chen is going to talk about release and absorb. So when you release, your hands are going to come out about body width. And you say absorb, you're going to bring your hands back together. They don't have to touch. Just bring them back to where you feel the energy between your hands. So out and in, out and in. Okay? That's easy. Just relax your mind, relax your breathing, and we'll give this a try.
Journey to health and happiness through action, affirmation, and wisdom.
Okay, can you hear this?
And slowly raise my hand in front of my body.
Well, we're going to have to put this here. Now? So it's just open.
I open up to the blue sky. I feel the blue sky coming inside. I open up to the blue sky all around me. I feel the blue sky coming inside. every organ of my body functions normally. I open up to the great chi field. And I attract healing chi inside.
Okay. That's a really simple chi exercise. Did anyone experience anything?
I just got,
Yes.
felt like my hands wouldn't go much closer together.
Yeah.
I felt like I was moving energy this way.
Yeah. Feel like you're trying to compact something and it just got harder to push together? Yes. You can get the tapes off a website called chilel.com. CHILEL. No, that's not in there. I didn't put the website on there. It's CHILEL.com. And what you listened right there was called Journey to Health and Happiness. Although when he started out, it sounded like Journey to Hell and Happiness.
C-H-I-L-E-L,
CHILEL.
one word.
One word.
And then dot.
.com.
Is it www or does it matter?
Yeah, if you go to Google and type in Chilel, it'll pop up, or if you even put in Qigong, it will pop up. So it's easy to find. Yes.
Can you identify some of the differences between Tai Chi and Qigong?
Well, Tai Chi is a martial art, and Qigong is an exercise which purpose is to heal your body. That's the difference. Yes?
If we want to really go into this and learn it, where do we go?
Well, in the handout in there, on the last page, I have an address on there. I teach these classes. They're free. Everyone is welcome to them. Teach them at the Columbus Center, which is 2531 South 5th East here in Salt Lake on Monday nights at 7 o'clock. And all you have to do is show up with a smile. That's it.